Are you dealing with a stressful situation and wondering how to cope? Stay tuned for a 4-card tarot spread that can give you insight into the source of your stress, as well as actions to take in order to feel better. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Allen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we're learning how to read tarot 1 card at a time. In today's reading, we'll be using a 4-card Managing Stress spread to answer the question, how do I manage my stress around a Trump presidency? I will be using the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, and there's a link below. This is my 3rd and final video about the United States presidential election, at least at this point. The first video was about my reaction, and the second video was about why so many tarot readers and psychics were wrong. I've linked to them both in the comments. I'm sharing readings with you for 2 reasons. One is that if you're upset by the election results, I don't want you to feel alone. Secondly, I believe that tarot is a great tool for healing. I wanted to share readings that have helped me. I hope that you'll get some insight from my readings, and I also hope that you'll do your own readings because your issues and solutions will be different than mine. This Managing Stress Tarot spread was sent to me in a newsletter by Biddy Tarot, and I'll link to her website below. This arrived on Friday, November 8th, 2 days after I learned the results of the election. I thought that the timing was perfect, and I used it to answer the question, how do I manage my stress around the Trump presidency? It is a very beautiful and versatile spread that you can use to gain insight about any kind of stress in your life. I grew up in Canada, and my family had a very British approach to showing your feelings, which was to not show your feelings. I learned early on to keep a stiff upper lip and to keep my feelings to myself. It was considered uncivilized to do any kind of grieving in public, and that is still my family motto, which has not done me any favors in life. It's interesting that I had a close friend pass away a few months ago, and both my mother and my mother-in-law gave me advice about how to keep from crying at the funeral. It's taken me a long time to recognize that feelings are meant to be dealt with and not suppressed. That's why I think tarot is so powerful. It can help you get through emotional blockages and find out what is really going on. So here's my reading. Card number 1 looks at what is at the heart of my stress around the Trump presidency. I drew the star reversed. Card number 2 looks at how I can better manage my stress around the Trump presidency. I drew strength. Card number 3 looks at how I can better direct my energy. I drew the 8 of Cups reversed. Card number 4 looks at what self-loving action I can take now. I drew the 5 of Wands reversed. Let's begin with my first impressions. I have 3 reversed cards, which is appropriate because I pretty much felt like my world was turned upside down after the election. 2 of the cards are at night. That's about all I have to say, so I'll look at each card individually. Card number 1 looks at what is at the heart of my stress around the Trump presidency. I drew the star reversed. In the upright position, the star is a wonderfully positive card that's about hope, healing, joy, and renewal. That's what I'd hoped to feel following the election. My first note when I was doing this reading is that I felt like my peace and tranquility had been interrupted, and the hard work of the Harris campaign didn't lead to the results I wanted. The reversed star is about fear for the future, which is precisely the heart of my stress. I have so much fear about programs and institutions that people have come to rely on, about who Trump will put in leadership positions and what programs they will dismantle. I thought about JFK Jr. and what he'd do to women's health and programs like the FDA. I thought about the people who rely on Obamacare and what will happen to our environmental protections. I thought about legal immigrants and the trauma of mass deportations. I thought about our role in the world and how much Trump admires dictators. My fear just got bigger and bigger. The reverse star is also the opposite of healing and renewal. It's about illness, stress, and exhaustion. I also worry about what will happen to me physically and emotionally if I don't get my stress under control. In the election letdown video, I mentioned that I'm in the process of getting diagnosed for rheumatoid arthritis. I've had a lot of unexplained pains in the joints of my hands and feet. The night of the election, I got up to use the bathroom and my husband told me that Trump had won. I went back to bed and for the first time, the joints in my hands felt like they were on fire. That was a wake-up call that stress has a big impact on pain and inflammation, and in addition to worrying about the impact of his presidency on the world, I needed to figure out how to control my stress levels so that I wouldn't be in pain. I'm always impressed by tarot, but this card nailed it and made me realize that the heart of my stress was fear. Although I don't like feeling this way, it is helpful for me to be able to pinpoint the specific emotion causing my stress when there were so many swirling around in my head. Card number 2 looks at how I can better manage my stress around the Trump presidency. I drew Strength. This is the same card that I got in my first reading called Election Letdown, when I asked how I should cope emotionally with the Trump presidency. I think it is a good message, and apparently Spirit thought that it was worth repeating, in case I didn't get the message the first time. Strength is about feminine power and means that I need to rely on inner strength, patience, and gentleness in order to manage my stress. I don't need to brute force things and try to override my feelings in a keep a stiff upper lip scenario, or give myself 3 days to grieve and then expect to be back to normal life. In Strength, we see a woman who has tamed the king of the jungle using a very light touch. She did not resort to fearful tactics such as using a whip. This is a message that I need to be gentle with myself. I decided to do some research about how lions are trained these days, and it's very different now than it was when Pamela Coleman Smith drew this image more than 100 years ago. Animal trainers now use positive reinforcement, such as food, to build a relationship with lions rather than making them afraid. So I take that as permission that I can manage my stress by doing a lot of snacking. Today's trainers, like the woman in Strength, focus on creating a relationship and making the animal feel safe. That's something else that I can do, create a feeling of safety. I mentioned in earlier videos that I decided to stop consuming podcasts and newsletters with political news because they made me feel very unsafe. Other things I can do are things to make me feel comfortable, like wearing my favorite sweatpants and fuzzy slippers, or watching old episodes of Friends or Seinfeld on Netflix. Something else animal trainers pay attention to is body language. We have dogs that don't always get along, and you can tell by their body language when the older one is fed up with the younger one. The message is that I need to pay attention to my body and notice signals, such as if my shoulders are tense or if I'm feeling tightness in my stomach. These are signals that I need to do something to manage my stress, such as some deep breathing exercises. Another thing that animal trainers do is stay calm. This is a message that I need to approach things calmly. Letting myself get riled up over the election will just make things worse. Calmer practices such as meditation, journaling, or reading tarot cards are a better choice. The woman is bent forward and the lion is looking upward. This represents a balance of control and surrender. This is something else to remember as I deal with my emotions. There will be times when I feel in control and times when I feel out of control and need to surrender to my emotions. It's okay to feel my feelings. I will get back into balance soon enough. Strength tells me that I need to approach my emotions gently and calmly, and if I'm kind and patient with myself, I will eventually get to a place of balance. Card number 3 looks at how I can better direct my energy. I drew the 8 of Cups reversed. This card tells me that it's time to move on from an emotional situation that is draining me, even though I'm reluctant to do so, if I want to better manage my stress. And the emotion I'm feeling is grief about the election. I love the symbolism in this card. Let's look at it in the upright position because things are easier to see. First, let's look at the orientation of the 8 cups in the foreground of the card. 4 is normally a number of stability. Think about 4 table legs. So you would expect that the 8 cups would be arranged in 2 groups of 4 and to represent a very stable situation. That is definitely not the case in this card. Pam Richards, in her book Understanding Tarot, points out that the cups are arranged in 2 groups. There is a group of 5, which can be seen either as the 5 cups at the bottom of the page or the 5 cups on the left. There is a group of 3 that can be viewed as either the 3 cups on the top or the 3 cups on the right. The 3 cups can represent the joy in his life, as seen by the dancing on the 3 of Cups card, and the 5 of Cups can represent profound sadness, as shown in the 5 of Cups card. I think this is a reminder that in times of loss and sorrow, joy still exists. As we saw in Strength, there is balance. The space between the top cups is interesting. It looks like something is missing in his life and he's going off to find it. Since the cups are about emotions, I think it represents that I'm seeking a deeper connection with myself or spirit. Something else to notice is that the water in this card is not flowing and it looks like marshland. We know that when water doesn't flow, it becomes stagnant and can grow all kinds of nasty bacteria. So I see this as meaning that tears have been shed, but they're no longer going anywhere. I've reached a point where more sadness is not going to help, even though I don't feel like I'm ready to move on. However, it's time to be like the man in the card, who appears to be moving on to regain a feeling of vitality and reconnect with his emotions. This is a message that my feelings are keeping me stuck, and I need to focus my energy on getting unstuck. There's no path along the riverbank, so he's following what works for him. This represents that I need to find my own path about how to direct my energy. There isn't a formula that I can follow about how we should move on from the election. He's walking uphill along the riverbank. We can see boulders and mountains ahead of him. This represents that there are a lot of challenges ahead. This will not be a quick or easy journey, so I shouldn't expect myself to be over the election quickly. He's also making this journey during a lunar eclipse, so the lack of light makes his journey even more challenging. Even though he can't see where he's going and doesn't have a path, he's still taking tiny steps forward. The sky is dark blue. Despite the color, we know that the moon is covered, so it is a pitch black night where much is hidden. When the 8 of Cups appears in a reverse position, it can signify that I'm clinging to the past and unable to let go and move forward. It's important that I direct my energy towards moving forward. So how do I do that? Tarot is an excellent, and also my favorite, tool for self-discovery. That would be my first recommendation to anyone who's watching, and I've been doing tarot readings around the election for the last few days. Each reading moves me closer to some kind of resolution about the election. Knowing where to direct my energy requires setting goals, even if they are short-term and not very clear, like we see in the card. He doesn't have a path and he's got lots of obstacles, but he's still moving forward. My goals need to be gentle, compassionate, and reasonable. This is not the time for me to decide that I'm going to write a book, declutter my entire house, and run a marathon. It's more like deciding that today I'm going to pick up a pen and write in my journal, even if it's just a couple of sentences. In terms of house cleaning, my goal could be that today I'm going to clean off a shelf or clean out a single drawer. For exercise, maybe today it's about doing a couple of gentle stretches or taking a short walk. That sort of thing. Of course, it will be different for you. The darkness of this card tells me that it's time to explore parts of myself that I can't see, and I think this will also help with stress reduction. I can ask myself questions such as why I'm feeling so fearful. Is it because I'm feeling powerless? Is this bringing up a time in life when I was overwhelmed with grief and unable to cope? Or a time of life when I felt extreme fear? Again, these are great questions to ask the tarot cards. Note that the cups are overturned in the reverse card. It's time to figure out how to let these emotions go. I'm going to make up an example because I don't want to share one from my own life. Let's pretend that your grandfather was a cruel man who did some despicable things to you when you were a child and you'd spend summer vacation with him. Trump's personality reminds you of your grandfather, and you know that part of your fear is based on childhood trauma. This is an opportunity to put your energy into healing and releasing emotions that have been stuck in your body since you were a child. So it might be time to find a therapist or a support group or read some books about healing childhood trauma. So there's a lot of things I can do to direct my energy. I can focus on something that I can control, which is healing myself. I need to be gentle with myself, look for solutions if this is exacerbating some kind of trauma, and figure out some baby steps to put me on a new path. You've made it this far in the video, and I want to stop and ask for a favor if you're not already a subscriber, and that is to please hit the subscribe button. It's free for you, and it will also help me to grow this channel. Plus, it means that you won't miss anything. Thanks so much, and if you're already a subscriber, I truly appreciate your ongoing support. Now let's get back to the video. Card number 4 looks at what self-loving action I can take now. I drew the 5 of Wands reversed. This is another card that I got in my election letdown reading, although this time it is reversed. In the upright position, we see 5 adolescent boys fighting with their wands in the air. They are all facing different directions, and so are their wands. There's a lot going on, but none of the boys are getting anything accomplished. In the election letdown reading, I shared how this card encapsulated what my brain felt like. Lots of thoughts were whirling around in my head, and I was spending lots of mental energy panicking about the future. Unfortunately, these thoughts didn't move me forward, they just exhausted me. The reverse 5 of Wands is about taking a break from conflict, which is the biggest self-loving action that I can take now. That was the conclusion I came to as soon as I heard the election results. So what does this mean in a practical sense? For me, it's stepping away from the media and all of the conflict and comments surrounding the election, which was a big deal, as prior to the election, I spent a ridiculous amount of time watching political podcasts, reading news articles, and engaging with friends on Facebook about how things were going. So I stopped it all. Wands are about fire, and I knew that I was stressed enough already without adding fuel to the fire. I unsubscribed from everything I possibly could. I also told my husband that, at least in the near future, we would no longer be watching the news together at 6:30. I also skipped over comments on Facebook and generally kept my mouth shut about my reaction to the election, with the exception of my videos on YouTube. This has been surprisingly hard because I developed a true addiction to the news. I posted a video about this called Doom Scrolling Detox. How can I stop watching the online news, which I'll link to below. When I wanted a break from working, I'd check a news site or read one of the many daily newsletters that I subscribed to. Around 4 p.m., when I was done work for the day and felt like my brain was too tired to do much, I'd watch a news channel show. Then my husband and I would watch the news together when he got home from work. And before I went to sleep, I'd watch political podcasts on my iPad. So stepping away from the conflict around the election was a big deal for me and left a gaping hole in my life. Of course, I couldn't leave a vacuum, so I've been adding back things that I enjoy. Instead of watching a 2-hour news show at 4 p.m., I've been watching Hallmark movies. Instead of watching political podcasts on YouTube, I've been watching shows about quilting, travel, and decluttering. And I've gone back to reading before bed instead of watching YouTube. Another message from this card is about stepping away from the competition. I completely understand that not everyone will react the way I have. In fact, I think most people won't. As I skim through Facebook, I can see that people are mobilizing in different ways, and I appreciate them for doing so. We all cope with things differently. It's not a competition, and we have to do what works for us. The final message is about finding a supportive community. I live with my husband and my daughter, who is in her late 20s, and I'm the sensitive one in the group. The other day, they started talking about all the other atrocities going on in the world, and I had to tell them to stop. It was not helping me, and this kind of conversation, although it makes them feel better, is not supportive to me. I also blocked several people on Facebook who were posting "let's get along" type messages. I respect that they have their own opinions, but I don't need to see them at this point. So the self-loving action that I can take now is to step away from the conflict and stay in my own little bubble of sanity. Let's summarize what this reading has revealed about how I should manage my stress around a Trump presidency. Card number 1, the Star Reverse, looks at what is at the heart of my stress. And this turned out to be fear, both for the country and for the impact that it will have on my health. Card number 2, Strength, looks at how I can better manage my stress around the Trump presidency. The message is that I need to approach my emotions gently and calmly, and to be kind and patient with myself. Card number 3, the Eight of Cups reversed, looks at how I can better direct my energy. This card tells me that it's time to move on from my grief about the election, even if I don't feel ready to, and to put my energy towards things that I can control, which includes healing myself. I need to be gentle with myself, look for solutions if this is exacerbating some kind of trauma, and figure out some baby steps to put me on a new path. Card number 4, the Five of Wands reversed, looks at what self-loving actions I can take now. I need to step away from the media and other sources of conflict around the election and replace these with other activities and a supportive community. I hope this video will help you deal with situations of great stress, especially if you're struggling to accept the election results. Please leave a comment if you'd like to share what you learned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.